Welcome to the 2022 NHL Draft recap for the Edmonton Oilers, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. This one will be relatively quick. The Edmonton Oilers had one pick in the first 150 selections, and it was Reed Schaefer, and they traded Zach Kassian to make it happen. That is a thing. I saw Reed Schaefer more and more as the year went on. He's a decent shooter who shoots from everywhere. He's very physical. He did have a few moments of really nice toe drags, through the legs moves to get around defensemen, and that's great. You don't see many 6'2", 6'3" guys that can do that, and he can do it. He is capable. It's just he knows where to be. He knows how to shoot. It's just using his frame to become a power winger more than he is probably going to need to happen. He's gonna need to get faster. He's gonna need to get stronger. He's gonna need to, the skill level's not gonna need to go anywhere. It needs to stay where it is, and he's gonna need to battle to get inside more than he did. I had him ranked at 73. I wouldn't have drafted him at 32. There are a lot of options I would have taken ahead of him, but I could see him being on the second or third line in Edmonton, probably third line, scoring maybe on the power play as well as a face-off circle shooting threat or something. Tip threat in front. He's a big body. There's options for Reed Schaefer, but man, this is a team that last year traded down and passed on Jesper Wallstedt to draft Xavier Bourgault, who is doing fine. This year they traded Zach Kassian and packaged quite a bit to move down a couple of spots and use that pick on Reed Schaefer. It's questionable, I would say, what they're up to over there, but I mean, Edmonton's not really in the business of winning the draft. They're in the business of winning the Stanley Cup right now. So I guess you can't pick and choose too bad. But I was not a huge fan of Reed Schaefer at 32 for Edmonton, especially after having making the trade that they made to get him. Samuel Jonsson at 158. He's a goaltender. In case you didn't know, he's big. He won 9 of 29 decisions in the J20 level this year, which is not great. But he faced under 30 shots a night, which is also a pretty relatively easy workload, and saved 88% of them. So the signs are not bright. He's one of these guys where teams draft these goalies who maybe don't stop pucks right now, but maybe they could in the future. I can't say he can't stop pucks in the future, but I think he's a typical, we'll see, he's big goaltender that, usually you see CHL players that have this kind of save percentage history drafted in the draft that are big. But I guess Edmonton wants to try their hand at finding one in Sweden. If only there was another Swedish goaltender they could have had that could play in the NHL sooner. And Nikita Yevseyev going at 190. Again, another guy that I didn't see until after the draft. He played the majority of the year in the VHL. I had only seen a little bit of him during the year and wasn't really blown away with his game. He has a later birthday in May 2004. So him being a pro-level player already and having a young birthday is an interesting combination for a late-round pick. He took a ton of penalties in the MHL, but kind of avoided that problem in the VHL. I wasn't really blown away with him. I found he got beat in physical battles. He doesn't have a ton of pace in his game. The decision-making is okay, but the passing technique and his ability to hit on passes is not particularly refined and great. But he's a big-time Will Stee guy that you stash overseas in Europe, or in Russia, I should say, indefinitely. You just wait and see what happens, and if he comes along, he comes along, and if he doesn't, it was 190th overall. And then they took Joel Mata at 222. I've seen Joel Mata over the years here and there. He's been undrafted twice, and when I watched him with Vermont after the draft, I didn't think there was any reason to draft him. But it was one of the last picks in the draft. There was literally... there was no realistic player that I would have vouched for that a team like the Edmonton Oilers would have wanted to draft. Like, if they're looking at Reed Schaefer at 32, they're not going to be okay with a Marcus Nguyen at 222 or a Tyler Duke or a Kenta Isogai or Adam Baresh. So I guess they go with the big center who can sort of play a dependable defense-first game in Joel Mata. I've seen him over the years. Like I said, I figured at this age he'd probably be a little more entrenched in the NCAA and helping Vermont get back to maybe a more competitive team, but hasn't really happened yet. Maybe it can. I can't say it can't, but I don't know. Overall, I did not think the Edmonton Oilers really had that strong of a draft. I would be surprised if any of these guys became like core players I could see Schaefer being a good sort of down the lineup scorer who might play on a power play in some role. So I gave the Edmonton Oilers a 4B. I mean, it was pretty consistently whatever, like if it was like a 4F, it would mean like they drafted like, AA kids and Reed Schaefer, which they didn't. I can't say that the goaltender isn't going to work out, even though it's unlikely. I can't say that Nikita Yevseyev won't work out. You give him 5 years in Russia, who knows? Like, I've seen some things that I like out of him. Joel Mata, I'd be surprised if anything came out of that, but like it's 222 overall. Like, what do you want from me? So it kind of sucks because Edmonton did start with one pick in the top 150, but that one pick, they could have done a lot of damage. Like we can just expand this out. And they had, Jagger Firkus in Edmonton would be tremendous. Seamus Casey I had really ranked really high. Gleb Trikazov, I don't think he would have gone to Edmonton, but they also drafted a Russian, so who knows, maybe he would have. Jack Hughes could have been an interesting pick in Edmonton that I put in my mock draft. Owen Beck, Calio Delius. There were options, I think, for them at 32 to do a little bit more damage, but they ended up with a goal scorer, in my view, who has some skill and size, but needs to work on the physical element and diversify his game a little bit. So in any case, the Edmonton Oilers so far are at the bottom of the leaderboard here below Boston and Arizona. Tomorrow's video will be the Vancouver Canucks. So join me for that one. It's going to be a good one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you then.